Diego. That's the Coronado Bridge coming across San Diego Bay from downtown into Coronado. They call it an island, but it's actually attached by a beach strand stretching 10 miles south of the Coronado Village down into what's called Imperial Beach, which is in the far southwest corner, just across the marshlands from Tijuana and Baja. It's heavily patrolled, lots of military. It's not a worry. Today's special guest is going to help us clarify some things going on in the world today, March 12, 2026. Here in California, it's 8 a.m., where Ron Cooper is. The CooperCulture.com is housed in Eastern Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C. Welcome, Ron. Excuse my frog. So today's topic is going to be very current, considering world events and U.S. events and the climate, the mental climate in the U.S. currently, with a war going on, more than one actually, and the military on high alert in many places, including right here in San Diego. Ron, the issue of friendly fire, you being a Top Gun expert flyer, many years in the U.S. Air Force, and very successfully navigated all the dangers and always landed in the plane you went up in. Congratulations, and thank you for being there as a leader. Friendly fire hurt the U.S. in the Gulf recently. What is friendly fire? That means somebody made a mistake, right?
Made a mistake. And in this case, friendly Kuwaitis, as the news was reported, inadvertently shot down three F-15E aircraft. And it's unfortunate that happens. It can happen periodically, and we should have largely indications in the cockpit of whether we are being targeted, we in the aircraft. I don't know the specifics of what happened, how these three aircraft were shot down. Could the pilots have avoided that, evaded that? And I don't know the specifics, Ed, but it is unfortunate. But sometimes in combat, there is friendly fire, and it's we wish that wouldn't have happened. But when we are engaged in combat, we know that any number of things can happen, and we in the cockpit, we war planners do everything we can to ensure communication, teamwork, and that we are unified with the objectives, our intelligence, communication, and so forth. That's a very, very broad statement, Ed. But I will say, in the context of, let's say, the families of those who were shot down, yeah, they are concerned. The pilots in this case did eject. They are safe. Now, would the families have the comfort of knowing that even though the Kuwaitis shot them down, are they safely on the ground and so forth? But the families, in the context of what I'm alluding to, Ed, have concerns, and the families might think, who cares? And there is an axiom that says you will those under our sphere of influence will not hear until we first know they are heard. What I mean by that, Ed, is that we leaders need to demonstrate we care about you, your concerns. We do want to hear whatever it is that might be concerning you. It is very possible, Ed, that you and I, leaders and companies in the United States, might have relatives um, that are engaged in war right now over enemy territory. And so, do we, let's say in the States, or at least we who are not engaged directly in that warfare, can we empathize with the families who have loved ones who maybe are engaged in or in otherwise? I don't want to focus strictly on the wartime, but are we listening for, do we genuinely care about those topics that are concerning those within our sphere of influence? That's kind of a large topic, but it is a matter of culture. And do we as leaders listen? Are we projecting that we, in fact, care?
Well, that is a workplace topic, that's for sure. And it's in vogue right now, that's for sure, too. So just before we leave this angle, in a, and I don't expect any uh, vital information to be exchanged here on public TV. Is it possible that the signals were jammed so the pilots couldn't know that they were in the sights of supposed friends?
Yes, that is definitely possible. And I'm going to say, from my perspective, and I do not have current intelligence, quite possible that is, in fact, what happened. And those inside the cockpit, those piloting the aircraft, literally did not know the signals were blocked. And so then it's a matter of how did that happen? And so I can virtually guarantee you that there is an after effect assessment of how did this come about. That in some case, well, in many cases, it could be communication. That how is it possible that this situation occurred? Because I want to be very careful and not sound like I'm blaming someone when I don't know all the facts. But uh, we have got to be certain that communication occurs and the appropriate people know, let's say, the route of flight, who's coming in at what time, and so forth. And in whatever you see on the radar, even though you may not see them with your eyeballs, is friendly aircraft. And so those are the kind of things that do need to be communicated. And it would seem that there was a lack of communication somewhere along the line, Ed, and I need to be necessarily very vague about that, not knowing the facts.
Okay, let's move on to the business workplace and this topic of being heard. And it's the leader's job to make sure that the line managers that are close to the workforce, uh, that's where the problems occur, not from the C-suite. Would you agree?
Yes. And so the C suite does establish the culture and the culture of caring. The C suite would want to establish a culture, an environment that every one of us should care. And then we need to establish that line of communication, that culture, to where those within our sphere of influence have the opportunity to voice whatever concerns us without them feeling we may trivialize what they're saying, trivialize, marginalize, anything like that. Some people are not going to verbalize something that is affecting their work performance, and they're held back because of something troubling them, because of something. The culture is one that people do want to be heard. They do want the freedom to express whatever's concerning them without others judging them. That, well, what's something to the effect? Well, what's the matter with you that you can't get over this seeming small issue topic? And it may be a matter of just letting a person talk about it, having the freedom to devote some amount of time. Of course, I'm not advocating we spend half a day talking about it, but many times, if the culture is such, and we've talked a lot about psychological safe space, do I have the freedom where I can even voice a concern? And I will tell you, last night we had Marty and I had a conference where various people had various concerns, and in I'd say in 5 minutes or so, there's maybe two or three people felt they were vulnerable enough to express a concern. But that is just one example, Ed, where a group of people felt comfortable. The atmosphere, the culture of this group was such, and we should largely share the same values of we care. So everyone felt comfortable they could express their concern, and they did so within just a minute or so. And there were three different people who expressed some very deep concerns, and they were vulnerable enough to do that. But the culture was such that they felt comfortable they could do that. And the group leader was very receptive to this. And Marty and I were very gratified that this is the kind of group that we can feel very comfortable being vulnerable enough to express concerns, and we show concern for each other in reciprocity. That, Ed, is a lot of what I'm referring to.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, the timing couldn't be better. There's um, across the U.S. there's so many different subcultures. Uh, the Deep South, the Mid South, the North Central U.S. is way different than California in particular, and the Boston, New England area is, of course, all American, but can't shake the subcultures that are English, aristocratic, uh, very wealthy people for generations are still involved in the business scene and the communities around Boston and New England. That's a very different atmosphere about, like, say, Midtown Manhattan and Brooklyn, Northern New Jersey, which is, well, congested for sure, but what a melting pot in a small space, and really strong companies and strong people coming together every day. What I'm reaching here is being heard, to use your words. You know, if people can feel confident or safe to be want to be heard rather than hide out.
No, you're very accurate, Ed. And
Thank
we as good leaders need to be culturally adaptive. The way I work with a group of people in Boston may necessarily be a little bit different than the way I would work with them from a group in Bronx, which would be very different, could very possibly be very different from the way I work with a group in, oh, let's just call it Midwest, in the Midwest farming country. And as I am culturally adaptive, I know that the cultures of these various areas of the country are different, but I know how to adapt to them. I'm not lowering my standards. I am not marginalizing anything of what people say, but I just know that they're different. People of these different regions have different ways of expressing themselves, and I need to be culturally adapted, to use that term again, to these people. But I need to demonstrate that I care about them, and if for any reason I'm not understanding maybe what they're expressing in the form of their culture, I need to be a good listener, and these people need to know that I am willing to listen to whatever their concerns are. Because Ed, I think you and I can likely agree that if I'm projecting an attitude that I don't care, the people are going to pick up on that right away, and they're not going to perform at their best potential, because they're thinking, I don't even know why I'm here. I just need a paycheck, and I'm concerned about whatever's bothering me, but those around me don't seem to care. And so that can be very divisive within a corporation, a culture. And again, people will perform at their best when they're in the company of people who know they care.
Well, so tell the audience through me uh, about how you would, as a coach, as a hired hand, a hired consultant, to fix a situation or to just make a situation happen within a company environment. Now, keep in mind that according to the LinkedIn stats, our readers, our viewers of a top quality conversation like this, I've produced more than 1,000 productions since starting this station, TV station, if you will, quote, 6 years ago, almost to the day. It was in March of 2020. And the programs are way different. Lately, particularly with this series with you, Ron, and Marty, the cooperculture.com, it's really a high level of conversation and very, very important topics about the workplace and about people feeling safe enough to speak up or smart enough to shut up in a contentious situation. But your approach at the C-level boardroom uh, is what we have to address here, because LinkedIn says that starting on or about January 1 through last week, the viewers of the programs, including ours, uh, are pretty diverse. It's mostly US, but 60% of the viewers, according to LinkedIn, are senior level, I'll call them managers, executives, in companies having more than 1,000 employees. And most of those corporations are US owned, although they will have established offices in Japan, Hong Kong, Texas, certainly in London, and very likely in every major capital around the world. About 20% of that audience who's watching these kinds of shows are small business people, CEO, founder, uh, and working rather than being passive rich guy investor and not working. So I know this is very vague, but it gives you an idea of who the audience is for this particular show and how I will market and portray this particular show in advance of people watching it, so they know what they're getting in advance before they watch it. That's very important. So how would you approach this situation in a senior level person in companies having more than 1,000 employees?
It's a very important question, and I will quote a statistic that, and I honestly cannot remember the source, but somewhere in the 60 to 70% was a statistic I read several weeks ago of the number of employees who feel they are not heard in the workplace. They're just not totally satisfied. They are uncertain of who actually cares. Do their senior leaders actually listen to whatever their concerns may be? But there's seeming upwards of 2/3 of the workforce feel that no, my senior leadership does not care a lot about what my concerns are. So, Ed, what I do is for those companies, for those leaders who feel that we're just not there. They may not know exactly what it is. We're doing okay, which may be 5 on a 10-point scale type thing. I just feel the senior leader, feel there's something. I just need someone to come in and help me assess what might be some hidden, silent indicators of the culture. And I'm not here to say that I can uncover every one of them, Ed, but I do have a method where I can identify uh, many of these silent indicators that are keeping a company from functioning at their best potential because of there's something in the culture. And sometimes they are the silent indicators that if you don't have a psychologically safe space, people will work and they're not going to express themselves. I just don't feel I have a concern about something. I just don't feel I can express it. I'm just going to go throughout the day and I'll just be at my place at the work desk or wherever it is. But I am in the back of my mind, I'm churning. There's something that's bothering me, but I just do not feel there's anyone in my organization who cares enough for me to express what my concern is. And many times when people feel that way, they feel that if I could just express what it is that's concerning me. And last night, in the example I was citing, there were people, there were spouses, there were distant relatives who had medical concerns, and it was bothering them, and so they just wanted to know that someone out there can care enough to express concern, and for those who pray, do so. That we did not spend a lot of time going into what all the problems were and how it's generated and so forth, but yet it was just enough conversation that the person felt, well, yes, you genuinely care about what I care about. That's the kind of atmosphere or the culture I'm referring to. And when a person is in that kind of a culture, they know that people care and they're genuinely concerned about it. And Ed, it may be at the beginning of the day that the senior leader says, "Well, Ed, you and I talked about whatever it is we talked about. I just want to check in with you. How are you doing?" And it may not take more than the proverbial 9 to 17 seconds, Ed, for you to say, "Well, actually, things are going better." But just the fact that you checked in indicates, I mean, it clearly tells you, I care enough that I thought about asking you what it is. And many times that can help a person over whatever it is that is keeping them from performing at their peak at the moment.
So let's talk about training you as the consultant, training the the staff on what not to do and tips on what to do on a daily basis. I mean, how to talk to the employee, how to
Sure.
talk with, or encourage them to trust.
Yep. And we have spoken before about trust and respect. I believe to get that trust, we need to give trust. We need to project trust and respect. So, Ed, as a leader, I need to trust those within my sphere of influence, and I need to respect them. One aspect of trust is, am I good for my word? That as I tell you I'm going to do something, do I in fact do it? And then respect. If I am, let's say, late for a meeting, if I even think I might be, okay, right now what comes to mind is we had a meeting last night, and it was a virtual meeting, much like we're having right now. But I told that person I have back-to-back meetings. I might have to leave the first meeting a little bit early, but I let that person know by way of email 5, 6 hours before the meeting occurred. I just want you to know that Marty and I will possibly have to leave this meeting early before the meeting officially ends. And so I wanted them to know that I did not want for that to have the appearance of being disrespectful, leaving the meeting without being able to say anything. And so that is a branding statement of who Marty and I are, but it's also a branding statement, so to speak, of the company. That Ed, as we reach out to different people and show them respect, that we respect you and your time, those are just some of the things that we can exude as a part of our values. We have spoken about it before, but if we can, with the tone of our voice and some words we use, we can be condescending to some people. And if I have a thought that I am superior to you in the chain of command within the company, I can use that against a person. A person can perceive that you're speaking to me in a condescending way, and people take that in a very negative way. That we need to be careful of the tone of voice we use, the way we speak to people. I am accountable for everything I do, and yes, positionally, I am accountable for the position I have, but I'm accountable to you, Ed, to those within my sphere of influence, of caring, demonstrating that I genuinely care about you, your professional growth, your emotional state on any given day. Those are things that I need to project, that I care about. And so I would hope, Ed, at the end of the day, through our interaction, through just our continuous um, interaction again, that you know that I care about you. And if I were to interview people, which I do in a company for those senior leaders who care, I would interview them and ask them questions about how they think their leaders care about them. Do they feel they listen to them? Those are questions that people need to know. And so I want to give that feedback to the leadership.
So I just was curious. You used the word exude, EXUDE.
Yes.
So I just Googled it, about synonyms, just to be sure I understood. I get the feeling of, what it is, but I didn't know a technical definition. And this is nothing more than what I'm just saying. I'm not trying to exude anything here. I'm trying to portray or get a picture of how you would talk with people who, you're strangers. You're not in contact with these people every day. Uh, I'm assuming that it's sporadic or new. So, how do you convey in language and actions that you're there for them?
And
And
Ed, I think it's a
that's it.
matter of, I think you would know right away if I start a conversation and say, Ed, how are you today? And yeah, I'm fine. Well, okay, Ed, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Or does the conversation end with you saying, I'm fine? And so I never want to force myself on anybody, but I want you to know that I am willing to listen to whatever it is you have to say. Many times, Ed, a 2 or 3 minute conversation, I'm genuinely listening to you, and you know that I care about what it is you say. You can come away from that conversation, that's just 2 to 3 minutes, and say, Ron and others, it seems like they actually care what I'm expressing to them. But again, if I just say, "Well, Ed, don't take long answering the question. I'm not here to spend hours of all the problems you're going through, but And Ed, I might curtail the conversation by saying, "I'll tell you what, Ed, I don't have 45 minutes right now, but how about if we talk about it later? If I have the sense that well, this may be a very long conversation of all of the stuff that's happened in your, who knows, 2, 3 decades of your life, kind of thing." But if I can project to you that I genuinely care, there's an appropriate time to express whatever you're expressing, and we can. I will project to you that I genuinely care. And so, Ed, a periodic note of maybe a text, maybe an email, whatever that I know is meaningful to you, I'll check in with you. And people almost always respond well to that. Good morning, Ed. It's by text, by word, whatever it is. And I hope your day is going well. And sometimes that comes across as trite, but yet, if I genuinely project that I care, you'll know that no, I always want to know how things are with you, Ed. Genuinely, I do genuinely care. And so that is in the context of exude. I frequently say that you'll know, Ed, if I speak positivity or if I'm speaking largely negative. You'll know that. You'll come away with some kind of impression. And to me, that's what the word exude means. That I'm radiating, I hope, positivity. Nothing false about it, but I hope you know that I do represent that positive aspect, and we're looking toward the positive things, albeit we know that, well, maybe for the next whatever period of time, we're in the valley of some sort of a negativity. But Ed, together we'll get through this. Trust me, we will. We definitely will, and you'll have the confidence that yep, we will.
Thank you for sharing that. I would think that through the course of more than one conversation, you would be able to get a grip on, get an insight of how this person, say me, is viewed by customers out there in the marketplace.
Oh, sure.
And that adds to the communication
Well,
style.
and Ed, it takes time to develop a genuine relationship. That's to me, that's common sense. But when we know it takes time, it takes some genuine communication to develop a very lasting relationship. That relationship is one where, over a period of time, we know that whatever differences we may have, we can work our way through those and differences. And you and I have used the term multiple times that we will amicably discuss any differences we may have. And I'm genuinely interested in your perspective. We may or may not agree on it, but I am certainly not going to denigrate your character or in any wise besmirch you for about any topic on which we may disagree. I'm just very interested in what your perspective is. But Ed, over a period of time, when we have these conversations, and particularly when, we just discussed differing viewpoints, you will come away knowing that yes, we can, and we're doing so in an amicable way. That we still remain friends, and we'll still be able to have a civil conversation at the dinner table, so to speak.
Great. So I would think this is a really important part of running a company, being a manager of a mix of people. That's a hard job.
No, it is, Ed. And when you have the right team formed, and again, if I'm speaking with, let's say, the program manager, that I would hope that program manager knows himself or herself very well. Your strengths, your weaknesses. I hope you're vulnerable and confident enough about yourself that say, I need an Ed Cohen on my team who can think about these things because I'm not real good at thinking about these things. and I need another person over here who can do this for me. But that's how we form the team, because I know the people I want in my surrounds, because I know that we are far better as a team than we are as any individual. It's the we function, not the me. But in the context of me, I know who I am. I know my weaknesses. I know I'm vulnerable enough that I know I'm not good at, let's say on a 10-point scale, I'm only 3 on whatever attribute it is. But Ed, I know you're about the 8 level. So I need to have you on my team to complement me in that fashion. But I have very specifically formed my team with the talents and traits that I need, such that with the totality of us on the team, I know I can go to you at any time, Ed, and say, can you help me think into this, Ed? And when I come to you with that, you will know with certainty I know your strengths, and I'm relying on you. And I am not talking in a condescending way, but I know you have the strength that I don't, and I need your input in. And so when we have formed that kind of a team, we have a culture that exudes, to use that word again, confidence. That I am very confident that I know you, Ed, and your traits and your strength, that you can help me, and that we together can become a much better team.
thecooperculture.com. The website's beautiful, very easy to read through and understand the scope and the dimension of what Ron has just been describing. Thank you for being my special guest today on this deep and very important topic.
Thanks, Ed. We look forward to having a dialogue with your listeners, and just chat about different things that may be happening. And we're happy to partner with anyone at all. And let's work together.
It's important to reach out to Ron at thecooperculture.com. Did I say that right?
You did.
All right, cool. I did my job.
Thank you, Ed.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you.